you have found why we are Christians. My name is Kent Philpott, and this is a conversational interview, and we're going to be talking to Scott McCarrel, sitting right there. Welcome, Scott.
Glad to be here, Kent.
Yeah, so we're Scott and I are old friends, and the first part of the program we're going to talk about how you became a Christian. But let's first, let's get your whole name going. What's your whole name, Scott?
Scott William McCarrel.
McCarrel, okay, McCarrel, and you spell it M-C, capital C-A-R-R-E-L-L.
One L.
One L.
One L.
Oh my goodness, I got to cross that. Okay, Scott. So I'm sorry to be so silly right off the bat, but anyway, when were you born?
I was born in Oakland,
California.
California. Moved to Lafayette when I was probably less than a year old.
Now you're still in Lafayette, or actually it's called Pleasanton.
No, I'm actually in Lafayette.
You're actually in Lafayette.
And you didn't know this, I live right across the street from where I grew up.
Really?
So I made a big move across the street.
Yeah, that's, now I know your wife, AndyAnn. I tried to get her to be here,
Right.
but she just couldn't do it.
Right.
AndyAnn, now is that a real name?
Her dad's name was Andy,
Okay,
and her mom's name was Ann.
so
She is AndyAnn.
so she's AndyAnn. What a,
And,
well, as my dad would say, what a peach of a wife you have.
and she
I
is
gotta tell
as
ya.
sweet as her name.
She is. Yeah, AndyAnn. So you live in Lafayette. Now, do you guys have a family?
We have 4 kids. We started out with 2 girls, Lisa, who's now 41. Wow. And Amy is 40. And then we have a son, Casey, who's 35 or 6.
What's his name?
Casey.
Casey.
He's 35. They keep changing their ages every year, so
Yeah.
you know, it's somewhere there. And then we have the youngest one, Jamie, is a son, and he's 30, just
Okay.
turned 30.
All right.
So 4 kids.
So you live over there in Lafayette, and we were just talking about what you do for a living, and we wanted you to go over to our house and maybe make our garage into a living space. Tell us a little bit about your work.
Well, I got this idea, it was 30-something years ago, maybe 31, 32 years ago, I was a remodeling contractor, and I was doing remodel work for different houses in like Upper End Plate, Blackhawk and Whitegate.
Okay.
And I noticed that these houses all had one thing similar. Their garages looked like mine. Even these nice, beautiful homes had garages that were still, you know, kind of a mess. And I realized one day that this was the entryway into the house. The people didn't go in their front door. They would come home, push the button, and whatever greeted them in their garage was what they saw as they came into this beautiful house and when they left. So I came up with this idea of just making cabinets, not old kitchen cabinets, which were traditionally used to put in the garage when you remodeled your kitchen, but make regular, real garage cabinets so that the garage would be consistent with the rest of the house.
Well, now you gave me a quote on our garage here, Scott, a little while ago, and I thought it was a little high.
Well,
You're an Oakland kid. Now, did you go to school in Oakland?
No, when I was a year old,
Oh, that's right.
we moved to Lafayette, moved
Yeah.
to a little neighborhood, all new neighborhood, brand new. I think almost all the families that moved in, 13 homes were on the GI Bill. So it was, you know, after the post-war, you know, families, kids, and on this street of 13 houses, there were 30-something kids.
Wow.
And it was...
Well, I've been on the street.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it was just, we just had a ball growing
Yeah.
up.
Well, it was a great upbringing. So,
yeah.
what high school did you go to?
Went to Acalanes High School in Lafayette.
Acalanes?
Acalanes.
Okay. Acalanes?
That's it.
Yeah. Okay. Did you play any sports there?
Played baseball.
Oh, you played baseball. Me too. What position you played?
I was a pitcher.
You were a pitcher?
Baseball was my life.
Was it?
Baseball was my life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Loved baseball.
Yeah.
Loved baseball.
Well, I do too.
So-
I still do.
Yeah.
I played. I've been coaching for all these years. I think I'm just at the end of my coaching career.
Yeah.
I got to
Yeah.
tell you, but so you're living in Lafayette. So who do you root for? The A's or the Giants? Who?
Oh, we have lots of A's stories. So I would say traditionally, mostly A's.
Mostly A's. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's sad what's have become of our teams here in 2017. At least my team beat your team for the worst record in baseball in 2017. I'm a Giants fan.
How things can change.
Yeah. Hopefully, be different. So, you went to Acalanes High School. What did you do after you graduated from high school?
Well, after high school, I went to Chico State.
Chico St.
Yeah.
Okay, come on. Now, Scott, we always used to say, anybody who went to Chico St, it was the party school.
Well, I didn't choose it for the academics. I mean, it's a fine school.
Yeah.
But that was.
So after Chico,
Well, I didn't really make it through Chico because I kind of got intercepted.
you got intercepted.
Yeah, while I was at some parties in Chico, there were a couple friends that I knew
Oh.
that from high school, actually, one from high school from Acalanes, who came into the parties that I was at and started sharing the gospel with us.
You're saying some Christians
Yeah.
infiltrated?
They did. Yeah. And they came in and with their, they came in and they said, hey, they brought a guitar in. Hey, do you mind if we share a few songs? Hey, far out in the language of the time.
Yeah.
Cool. And they brought out their guitar and started singing songs, but these songs were a little bit different than the songs we'd been listening to on the radio and playing on our records. So they were songs about Jesus. And it was like, whoa, what's going on here? We'd never heard anything like this. And so that was the beginning of my change.
Now, Scott. So now, I forgot to ask you this. Now, growing up, did you guys go to any church? Was there any kind of?
I was raised a Catholic.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was raised a Catholic.
Were you faithful Catholic? Did you go to church most of the time?
Yeah.
or-
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah.
Okay. All right. So there you are. Did it have much impact? Did you have a sense that you were a follower of Jesus? That you had a relationship with God? Was there anything like that?
Not really. No. No, I didn't really have. No,
Okay.
I'd have to say no.
Okay.
I just would go to church because we went to church on Sundays.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was till I was probably only about 15 or so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you quit.
I did.
The typical story.
Yeah.
Typical story for regardless of what church you went through.
Yeah.
You know. So now you're in Chico. You're at some party, and so these guys come in. That's pretty bold
Oh yeah.
that they did that.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Now, what did people think about these guys that did that?
Well, the interesting thing was, I didn't really know what to think, but what I saw was the different reactions from some of my friends, and some of my friends became really defensive. And these were friends who I thought, they had it together, and why are they getting defensive? What are they afraid of? So that was one of my first thoughts. And so I would just listen. And this actually happened 3 or 4 times where I'd be somewhere else, and they'd show up again.
Now, what year was this?
That would have been 1971.
Uh-oh. Oh, okay, all right, okay, Scott, I'm a little slow. This is the Jesus
It
People
is.
movement.
It is.
Now, did these guys
It's-
have anything to do with Gaylord Inns?
They did. They
Okay.
both, actually, both of them lived at the Ivy House.
The Ivy House.
Right, in Chico. They'd both become Christians a year before.
Okay, I'm going to address this. I'm going to talk to this camera here.
Okay.
I hope. I want to explain for listeners, the Jesus People movement, about 1967, 72, up in Chico, a friend of ours by the name of Gaylord Enns, that's E-N-N-S. He has a wonderful book called Love Revolution, and he was the guy that put this all together. They started a Christian house, Christian commune, did all kinds of ministry. Gaylord's still doing it. So, okay, I forgot that this had to do with Gaylord.
Yes.
Okay, I just want to
absolutely.
let our audience know. So this is the Jesus People movement in Chico, 1971.
Right.
Okay, so you witnessed these, you saw these guys and they're doing this.
Right.
Okay, now they're singing songs, the old Jesus People songs.
And then telling their stories,
Okay.
their testimonies, if you will, of
Yeah.
what happened to them, their life, and how they had been converted, how they'd come
Yeah.
to the Lord. Yeah.
So you're in the neighborhood, 19, 20 years old.
Yeah, I was 19 or 20.
Okay, that's just, I became a Christian when I was 21.
Yeah.
It's funny how that age keeps coming up. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
we start trying to figure out what is going on around on the planet. So the Vietnam War is still
Still going.
going. What was your reaction to Vietnam War? What were you thinking with that?
I was pretty naive back then, and I just didn't even have an idea of what was going on. I just didn't. And when it came my time, there was a lottery, which do you remember that? There was, after the draft, there was a lottery where a name or number was picked that would be in accordance with your birthday. And so they just pick a number. Number one would be, and they pick a birthday. Number two, and pick a birthday, kind of like the lotto. And my number was 314, and so I never had to worry about. And honestly, I didn't even know. I just went, "Oh wow, that's nice," but I didn't even realize at the time how big a deal that was.
Okay. Now you still have long hair. When did you let your
Do
hair
you see
go
that?
long?
You see that?
Yeah,
I thought
I
it was.
can see
I
it.
thought it was hiding it.
No,
back
no,
there.
So
It's
when did you let your hair go long, Scott?
probably, well, since I met you, it's been long. So maybe four years or so.
That you were like me all
Yeah, this is probably longer than it was in the Jesus movement
really.
in the 60s. Probably longer, yeah.
Yeah.
And don't ask me why. I don't know.
So let's say here you are, you're a freshman, sophomore at Party School, USA, Chico, and so what were your religious concepts? Did you have any kind of philosophy of life, anything going on there?
I would say no. I love the outdoors. I love fishing. I love probably my love in life, or my philosophy, was just get away, get out, and be alone with, for me, it would be fishing, nature.
Okay.
And that was just my love, my philosophy.
Did you think of yourself as a hippie at all?
I probably, I didn't think of myself that way, but people would have looked at me and said, yeah, there's one.
There's one.
I would have thought of myself on the fringes on the fringes.
On the
Now,
fringe.
other people would have said, yeah, he's a hippie.
Okay, I understand. All right, now bring us up with AndyAnn. Now, when did you meet AndyAnn?
I met AndyAnn actually in high school at Acalanes, my sophomore year. I was walking in the hall. I could take you to the place where it was. I'd never seen her before, and here was this guy that I knew, and he was talking to this girl, and they were very animated. And I just did a double take, and I looked at her, and I said, "Who is that girl?" And from that moment, I started stalking her.
You were a stalker.
Serious
Stalker, huh?
Serious.
Wow.
And that was, wow, how long ago? That was 1968.
68.
Yeah, and it worked out. It actually worked out. She was stalkable, and when she met me at all, it's a long story, but it was a good
How
story.
long after that did you get married?
We got married in September 1972.
72. Okay. So you were maybe still at Chico State at that time?
No.
You
no.
got you were done by then.
I left.
You left.
I took withdrawals in my classes, and now I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but I had to because of these encounters with these Christians. I had to find out if this was true for myself. So I took withdrawals in my classes, and they were leaving to go up to a Christian farm in Oregon. And I decided to go with them, and I stepped out like on behalf of my friends, my girlfriend, everybody. I had to go find out if this was true.
You even left AndyAnn behind.
I left AndyAnn behind.
Wow, that was a big step. Now this is a little unusual. I don't know if I've ever come across something like that, Scott. So now let me see if I can retell the story. See if I got this right. So you're at different parties. These guys start showing up, playing guitar, telling you about Jesus. Would you say it produced a little bit of a crisis in your life?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Up to that point, everything was fine. I didn't see any need, and now I saw maybe a lack or a need, or what is it that these guys have that I don't have? Yeah.
You know, the classical story of conversion, although many people don't recognize it or could see it in themselves, it begins with an uneasiness that there's something wrong. There's something wrong, and you do not have a relationship with God.
Right.
The God they're talking about, you don't know, and it's foreign to you. And an uneasiness can set in.
Yeah.
Does that describe that at all for you?
Yeah, and if my wife, if AndyAnn were here, she would add to that, and she would say the uneasiness for her was for the first time hearing about hell.
Hearing about hell.
Hell. And which was part of this message, was we're going to stand before God someday, and you're going to give an account for yourself, for everything you've done. And there is a heaven and there is a hell. And that shook AndyAnn up.
Now, it shook her up. Okay.
And me.
And you.
But her to a bigger degree than me.
Okay.
Yeah.
We call that conviction of sin.
Yeah.
We're old pro Christians now.
Yeah.
We know what that is.
Yeah.
That's called conviction of sin. And the reason it's so dramatic is because we would never come to that on our own. We
Right.
always get rid of it in some way. All paths lead to God. It doesn't really matter. I do good. I'm a good person.
Right.
But that wasn't working.
No.
That wasn't working.
No.
Yeah. That's what we call part of the calling.
Yeah.
So here you go. This so impacts you that you start to move away from academics, schoolwork, and now you're off to Oregon with these guys?
I said, this is important enough for me to find out. I have to stop what I'm doing and find out if this is true. And so they're going up to Oregon, up to a place in Myrtle Creek outside of Roseburg, and a place called the Freckle Face Christian Farm.
The what?
Freckle.
I got to write this on the
Freckle Face Christian Farm.
Freckle
Face
Face Christian Farm.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that. You've never said that to me, Scott.
No. Well,
I've never heard of this place.
Yeah.
Freckle?
Freckle.
Like freckles on your face?
That's it. Freckle Face.
Did you ever find out where they got that name
Well,
from?
they had two little girls.
Oh.
Who had, I think that was it, and they were freckle-faced.
Okay.
Had some freckles.
Well, what was the name of the guy that ran it?
Jack McFarland and his wife Karen
Jack and Karen.
McFarland.
I've never heard of them.
Yeah. Wonderful people. They're living in Red Bluff now.
Red Bluff
They
now.
are. They
Okay,
are.
Red Bluff.
Yeah. Just reconnected with them a couple months ago after years and years and years. I'm not.
Do me a favor and send me his email address.
I will.
Okay.
I will.
Thank you. I'll delete that. Maybe. But I'd like to get a hold of that guy.
Yeah.
That's fabulous. That's fabulous.
Yeah.
So you're up there. But it's kind of like a commune or something?
Yeah. Could I tell you the story of going up there?
Okay. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. So I've decided now to go up, to step out, go on this investigative journey. And the first night, we camped out at night below Mount Shasta and just slept out on the ground. This was like middle to end of October, freezing cold. Just laid our sleeping bags down. Got up in the morning, went into the town of Mount Shasta to a gas station. And Mike went up to the gas station attendant and said, "Hey, can you tell us where this group is that's up on the mountain, up on Shasta?" So we got directions, and because Mike, you use the word bold. Well, he was bold because he'd be out on the streets, he'd be everywhere sharing the gospel. He'd be up in casinos and Tahoe, and I mean everywhere. So anyway, he gets directions, and here we go. We start heading up the mountain, up to the top of Shasta. And this is my first day, right? I'm tagging along, and Mike is singing "Go Tell It on the Mountain." And he turns around to me and he says, "This might get a little bit," in the language of the day, "this might get a little heavy." And I'm sitting there in the back seat going, what did I get myself into?
I know who the people are, and I've been to
What am
Mount
I
Shasta,
doing?
Searching those people out myself
Well, yeah,
later.
so we're going up, and I have to tell you first, Mike's story that I heard several times whenever he'd come into the groups, the parties we were at, is he went to Hawaii. He lived on the Big Island, and he lived in an avocado tree. And he grew in an avocado tree. He grew his own drugs.
In an avocado tree.
And he got his fish out of the Captain Cook out of Kealakekua Bay, and he spearfish, and he was living in paradise. And one day, a sorcerer gave him a candle, told him to meditate on this candle. So he's sitting in his tree house, and he's meditating on this candle, and he said he didn't take any drugs, and he's just meditating on this candle. And he said it's like the whole spirit realm just opened up to him, and he went running through the jungle at night. And it completely so affected him, freaked him out, that he didn't even make it back to his treehouse. In the morning, he came back, packed up his stuff. He said, "I got to get out of here." And so here was his paradise the day before, and he's got to get out. So he gets picked up by this Hawaiian guy, and the Hawaiian guy starts talking to him about not liking long hairs.
About what?
Not liking long hairs.
Okay.
Mike had long hair. And he started talking about cutting people up with knives, and he had a big machete on the dashboard of his car. And Mike said the guy was going to do him in, and there was nothing he could do about it, this big, huge Hawaiian guy. Out of desperation, Mike reached into his backpack, and he had a little New Testament that someone in Chico had given him before he went to Hawaii. and he pulled it out of desperation. He opens up to the only chapter that he'd ever read, which is Matthew 24, and he starts reading it out loud. He didn't know what to do. He just starts reading Matthew 24, which is about the coming of the end of the world. The same guy pulls off the road and breaks down crying. And Mike is watching this. Then the guy takes him out of his way to the airport and gives Mike money he didn't have to make it back home. So that's kind of part of Mike's testimony that I'd heard. So,
Okay, now let me stop you there. Now, what I think happened, Mike came in contact with a sorcerer, and all of a sudden, when he's trying to meditate on that candle, all of a sudden he realizes there's a demonic kingdom, a demonic realm that became very clear to him. I've heard many of those stories of people seeking for truth and finding out there's a devil.
Right.
And who, okay, so
we go up to the spot, up on Mount Shasta. There's nobody there, no cars. We didn't pass any cars. No cars came by us. Freezing cold, windy. And we get out, we start walking around. There's nobody there. We probably walked around for half an hour, and the whole time Mike is saying, God, I know you want us here. We're here for a reason. And he's just saying that over and over again. And I'm starting to say to myself, yeah, God, you want us up here in the middle of nowhere freezing to death. Yeah. We started going back to the car, and I'm not sure who saw it, but we looked down this draw, and there was this little bit of smoke coming up through these trees. So we walked down, we made our way down this path, and we walked into this little opening of trees, probably about as big as this studio, not very big. And here's what we saw. 2 girls were sitting at a campfire with their Bibles open to Matthew 24. And they just read it. And they just said, God, if you're real, send someone here to explain this to us, because we don't know what this means. And we walk in the scene.
Okay, now we got to stop there because we got 32 seconds. And I'm going to stop this, but we're going to pick this up. Well, I hate to leave everybody there. I hate everybody to leave our audience at this story, but you're going to have to be looking for Why We Are Christians, the next edition with Scott McCarrell, because I got to hear the end of the story. He never told me this was coming up. There's another story we're going to hear, but this one we're going to pick up. All right, until next time, be looking for Why We Are Christians. So long.